Hello, everyone. My name is Shahid Patterson, and I'm going to be talking to you today about urban sprawl. Whew. So, urban sprawl pretty much is the rapid expansion of a geographic area, like a city or a town. They often are characterized, you may see like a low density area or a low income neighborhood, and they cause things that you might need to rely on a vehicle to get to where you're going from far out to come back in. A few issues that happen with urban sprawl. They cause a lot of high segregation in these residential commercial areas because it's very hard to get to some of these areas when you live further out and we live closer in. It's easier to get to these areas. They do harmfully, and it does harmfully impact air pollution and the wildlife and the water pollution because you have so many people coming out from the city bringing more carbon dioxide with the cars and stuff outwards. And then you also need resources to be taken up in area and land for these expansions outwards. They also cause a lot of traffic jams and traffic data related fatalities. So if you think about it, if everybody's rushing to get into the city, into their area from outwards, it's going to cause a lot of traffic buildup because everybody's using those roads at the same time, especially around rush hour. Like if you live in Charlotte, trying to get somewhere around like 12, 8 in the morning, anywhere in those times, like 4, it's hard because a lot of people are going home from work. So, and it also causes a lot of higher tax rates because, it costs a lot to build these places and all these expansions. And then you have, minor things that causes more flooding, loss of land, like I said, more runoff into rivers and lakes, and it consumes a lot of forests and farmlands. Now, this is problematic to North Carolina because North Carolina is more of an agricultural state, and like we're in the top 10 of the most agriculturally producing states in America. Like every state produces something agriculturally, but we're up there, and so because of that, we need a lot of land, we need a lot of forests, for these things that we grow, like tobacco, sweet potatoes. We breed hogs, turkeys, stuff like that. So we need a lot of space to do that. And when with all of these expansions or people taking up this space and this land, it hinders our ability to, you know, grow stuff on this land. So that's the adverse effect on North Carolina, because again, it affects both the land, it affects water, it affects wildlife, it affects forests, which are all these natural resources that an agriculture state like North Carolina needs. So it's taking away these resources, so it's hindering the whole state in the sense. Now, to talk about the topics that it relates to, one would be environmental injustice, environmental justice. A lot of these places that they make, um, the urban sprawl creates a lot of low income households and a lot of inequality. And people who live in these low income neighborhoods and households typically are people of color or people of ethnic background. And because they have so many, because it creates such a divide, people who can afford to move outwards from the city will probably be that of like richer white people. Not to mention, not to say some black people can't move out or some Hispanics or ethnics, but it's generally richer white people who can afford to move out because the people who live in don't own a car to get out to in. So it's harder for them to not stay into the city because they rely on, say, public transport. So it creates this kind of injustice for people who want like a better lifestyle living out from the city, but they can't afford it, and they can't keep up with like, again, the needing of a car and all that. Some of the commons. Now the commons I chose were the roads that we all share, and because of that, if everybody is rushing to get in at one time, like with traffic jams coming home from work or going to work, urban sprawl hinders this common that we all share, the roads. It produces more jams and more traffic fatalities and more and when people are in a traffic jam, they're going to want to get home as fast as they can. So they're going to start cutting people off, start driving in their own self-interest, and that then taints the commons. And yeah, so it's hard to keep up with that. That's one thing urban sprawl does. It affects that negatively as well. And the last one was political ecology. I'm not gonna go too far into this one. All I know is like all the resources, those are deemed by who's living in that area. So like the water or the forest or the things, they have the power. The ones living in the area and the leaders of that area, they hold the power to who gets those resources. So with urban sprawl, the people expanding out, the people in the city probably won't be getting those resources that are over here, because they're not near them. But the people out there, they have the power over those resources, as opposed to the ones living towards into the city. So yeah, and then a potential solution. The one I saw the best I saw was create something that's called smart growth communities. Smart growth communities, they pretty much direct the growth of these urban areas. Like I said, these urban expansions or urban sprawls, they tend to be erratic, not random because they're obviously planned, most of them, but they're just erratic and they don't follow a certain pattern most of the time. But this solution will direct them into a suitable growth where it's not harming specific like land that again we're using for agriculture, but it's also it can help reduce some of the struggles and inequalities that are happening, because we can probably get it to better areas with this solution. So that is my piece on urban sprawl and how it relates to North Carolina and everything. Thank you for listening. Have a good Christmas.